DIY's Weekend Mechanic. Tomorrow at 8 Eastern on DIY Network. Online at DIYnetwork.com.
It's a stone wall system so easy it's like paint by number. The door surround, chair rail, and baseboard install in a snap. And the irregular stones let you be a little creative. 2 full days of basic projects can turn an average dining room into a French farmhouse right out of Provence. Don't miss the transformation that's headed your way right now on Weekend Handyman. Hi, welcome to Weekend Handyman. I'm Paul Ryan. I am getting ready for a rockin' weekend, literally, because we are going to be saying goodbye to the plain flat walls in this dining room and facing them with stone veneer. We'll be giving this suburban dining room the look of a French country farmhouse. Now, here's what we'll be using. It's from a company called Modulo, and it's actually reconstituted stones. Stones that are crushed and mixed with pigments and other materials and cast into these veneers. Now, we're using this style called murmur. The mold for these are based on stones that were collected in fields in France after they've been plowed. And they cast over 140 different molds of this style for a totally authentic and random look. There are lots of styles to choose from, and they're all based on real stones. The reconstituted stones recreate the stone walls found in castles, churches, and keeps of medieval Europe. When I said we were going to reface the entire wall, we're talking about everything. Not just the wall, but the chair rail, the baseboard, and we've even got a kit that goes around the door. For the chair rail, we're using this Listel, which is basically a chair rail, but it's stone. And the baseboard is going to be replaced with this. It's called a plinth, which is French for base. And here's the kit that's going around the door, complete with a keystone and the surrounding stones. Now, this project is so straightforward, I'm going to give it a 2 on our Weekend Handyman difficulty scale. When you think of stonework, it seems a more daunting task, but the nice thing about this is that there's no wall prep. Just backbutter the pieces and set them into place. Then we'll grout the joints. We don't even need many tools. We'll need a pry bar and a laser level or regular level. Nearly everything comes with a kit. The stone, mastic, spatula, grout and grout bag, and tooling device. Besides the kit, we need a miter saw, handsaw, hammer, and a drill with a paddle bit. The materials for this project will cost about $1,800, and we'll save about $3,000 in labor by doing it ourselves. If you need more information on this project, check out our website. It's DIYnetwork.com. Well, as I mentioned, there's not a lot of special tools for this job, but something that will help is a friend. And helping us out today is our friend and carpenter, Beth. How's it going, Beth?
Good, Paul. It looks like a fairly easy project.
Yeah, you know, it should be. This is the door kit here, and you can see it's got a diagram on the back. Pretty much tells you where each stone's got to go. This is the adhesive. It's already pre-mixed. And we don't have to have 100% coverage on the stone. Just a couple of dollops each and put them into place.
That's great.
Now, we want to start with the door kit first because we want the chair rail and the base to sort of dead into this finished door kit.
Okay, I'll go ahead and finish pulling the rest of that trim then.
Sounds good. Well, we'll start out with the keystone first and then center the rest of the stones off of that keystone.
Okay, how about if we lay it out on the floor to see how it's going to look?
Great idea.
All right.
What have you got for measurement?
The width is 37.
Okay. Now, let's see. Down here, we've got a little over 41, so we have to make up a little distance here. Now, that's the nice thing about this kit. There's a couple of different ways we can do this.
Okay.
You can see right now the grout joints are pretty wide. We can make up some space by sliding these stones together, and not sure how much that's going to gain us, but we can find out. Yeah, we're still going to be too wide. Now, if we take out a whole stone, we'd be too skinny, so
right.
We'll probably end up cutting one of these stones. But I think, first of all, let's lay the keystone,
okay,
the 2 cornerstones, and then see how we lay out.
All right.
All right.
First, we need to locate the center of the door. We'll be placing our keystone here. Then we use this, very appropriately called the spatula. It's included with the kit and is used to apply the mastic to the back of the stones. We place our keystone right on our center mark.
Some stones are heavier and denser than others, so you can use a small nail to hold the stone in place while the adhesive sets up.
We're not really buttering the back of our stones. Instead, we're applying about 3 dollops of adhesive on the back and pressing the stones into place. We leave about a 1/4 inch between the stones for the grout joint.
All right, see that tile?
There you go.
Yeah, we're a bit wide here. You know, I think if we cut it right about there.
We'll use a miter box to cut about 1.5 inches off the stone. This cuts really easily. No wet saw or diamond blade needed.
After you cut the stones with a saw, you will get a very straight, smooth edge. In order to get a more distressed or natural look, use a utility knife and distress the edges.
Perfect. Mud it up. Well, you know, supposedly the door kit's the most difficult thing about this whole project. I think we're in for a pretty easy weekend.
I think so too.
Tell you what, let's tackle the other door, then we can get to work on the chair rail.
All right.
When we come back, we'll get going on the chair rail, the base, and the irregular stones. We have our work cut out for us when Weekend Handyman continues.
Welcome back to Weekend Handyman, where we are turning a suburban dining room into a French country farmhouse using lightweight stone veneer. Now, our door surrounds are done. We're about 3 hours into the project, which rates a 2 on our Weekend Handyman difficulty scale. Next thing we need to do, replace the chair rail. Now, the existing chair rail that was in here was a bit low, so we're going to be lifting it up a little bit. So we need to use a laser level and set our line. All right. Well, I'm thinking if we line this line up with the top here, or thereabouts.
How's that?
Yeah, let's bring it down a little bit more. That's pretty close.
Now we use a straight edge to mark our reference line. That way we can turn off the laser. Otherwise, the laser line will bounce up and down when we walk across the floor. Our chair rail goes on the same way as the door surround. We use 3 dollops of mastic on each rail. When we get to the corner, we need to make a 45-degree miter cut for a nice finished corner.
Well, we are looking pretty good in here. Now, while Beth finishes the chair rail, I'm going to start on the base. And the first thing I want to do is just do sort of a dry fit. I want to see how things are going to lay out. Now, the last thing I want is a little tiny sliver in the corner. So once I have this laid out, it'll give me a pretty good idea if these full stones are going to work. And as I look, that lines up pretty good. Now down here, a full stone won't quite make it, so we know we're going to have to cut this one.
If you don't have a power saw available to you, a hand saw will work just as good. They're also great for making quick, easy cuts on site.
And you guessed it, the base goes on just like the rest of the pieces. We mitered the corners of the base, too, for a nice finished look.
All right, Beth, it is time for the fun part. Time to fill this wall with our flat stones.
I know, it's good we got all the tricky trim work done, and now we can see it come together.
You know, the first thing we want to do, we're dealing with natural stone product, and we want to mix a few boxes. The reason for that is that with a natural stone product, you're going to get a little different variations in the colors. So by mixing this, we'll have a nice uniform look. Also, we've got some big stones, some medium stones, and by laying this out, this will allow us to pick the stones and get sort of a random look. We want this to look like nature, so that's what we're going to have.
Good idea.
We're starting at the top and working our way down. No rules, just make it look good and random. Because these pieces are irregular, it's best to dry fit first.
That'd be a good fit.
And when we find a piece that fits, we're ready to add the adhesive.
There we go. Well, we're making some pretty good progress, but we've got a ways to go. I think we want to get all the stones up, let them set up overnight before we start grouting.
I agree.
All right.
When we come back, a lot of grout changes the entire room. Plus tips on removing grout mistakes and a new chandelier to finish off the look. Tips aplenty when Weekend Handyman returns.
Welcome back to Weekend Handyman, where we are ready for another day of work. We're using stone veneer to transform the suburban dining room into a French country farmhouse. Now it's the beginning of day 2, and we've got a lot of stone on the walls.
Because this stone veneer system is made up of pre-cut components, it makes the job really easy. The door surround installation was a piece of cake. Same the chair rail and the baseboard. Setting the irregular stones was more work because we had to make the pieces fit. But there's a certain artistry to it that adds to the fun. Right now we have about 9 hours into this project, which rates a 2 on our Weekend Handyman difficulty scale.
Well, there's no way I could have done all this stone work myself. I had some help from our friend Beth, who is back today to help me grout.
It looks really cool, and I can't wait to see what it's going to look like after it's grouted.
You know, if this is any indication, it's going to look really nice.
Yeah.
Now, the grouting, pretty labor intensive, and anything we can do to save a little time will help us.
Okay.
And a lot of the prep work is taken care of right inside this grout bucket. Now, each bucket comes with its bag. Inside the bag, you've got a joint raker, you've got a joint brush, and a couple of grout bags, one for me and one for you.
Excellent.
All we need to do is add the water.
All right, let's get to it.
We start out by rolling our pail of mortar. This mixes up all the aggregate and cement to fluff it up and make it easier to scoop out. Everything settles in shipping, so it's important to mix it up. We're using a 5-to-1 ratio of mortar mix to water. That's the manufacturer's recommendation. Then we just mix it up with a drill and a paddle bit.
You know, probably one of the most important things when you're grouting is to have your grout at the proper consistency so it's easy to work with. If it's too thick, like this, it'll get stuck in the bag and it'll be hard to apply to the wall. If it's too thin, like this, it'll run all over the wall and you'll have a big mess. Now, this is the proper consistency, about like oatmeal.
We start by adding the mortar to the grout bag. Just fill it halfway up and snip off the end.
Now, when applying the grout, it's not just a matter of putting the grout on the wall and we're done. We still have to come back and tool and finish the joints. So you want to make sure that you don't get too far ahead of yourself. If we were to grout this entire room, by the time we got done, the grout over here where we started, it'd already be dry. We wouldn't be able to tool those joints. So, work slowly.
We can probably grout for about 45 minutes. Then it'll be set up enough for us to go back where we started and rake over the joints to finish them.
When grouting, it's best to pull the grout bag towards you rather than push the grout bag away from you. This will give you more uniform grout lines and a better appearance. If you spill grout on the stones, don't wipe it off right away. It'll just smear. Wait about 15 minutes for the grout to firm up. Then you can simply pick it off.
After the mortar starts to set up, we use a 3/8-inch joint rake to push the mortar into the little holes that the pros like to call B-holes. Then we strike the joints, pushing the mortar in and getting rid of any excess.
Now, you can see that we haven't grouted around the light switch here. We've moved the wall out. Now we need to move that switch out. So I've got an electrical box extender. What I'll do is take the switch off, put this extender in, and this is beveled so you can slide it in or out to the proper depth. Then we'll put the switch on top of that extender box, grout around it, and put the switch plate back on. First thing we need to do, though, shut off the power.
We'll use electrical box extenders for all of our outlets and light switches. Then, when the room is complete, we'll add new cover plates to finish it all off.
Hey, Beth, you want to grout it up?
Sure, Paul.
Thanks.
If you need any more information on grouting, head to our website. It's DIYnetwork.com. When we come back, it's all about tooling. Joints, that is. And we'll finish our French farmhouse style with a wrought iron chandelier, complete with a dimmer switch. It's all moments away when Weekend Handyman continues.
Welcome back to Weekend Handyman, where we are putting the final touches on our stone veneer dining room. So far, we're 14 hours into the project, which rates a 2 on our Weekend Handyman difficulty scale. Now, on this wall, all the grout joints have been tooled, and this is pretty much the finished look. I really love how the aggregate shows through here. Sort of gives it an old world look. This wall is done, but this wall is not. Now, we've let the grout set up for about 45 minutes, so now we need to finish the grout or tool it with our grout finishing tool. The goal here is to let the grout set up so that when you chip away at it, it starts to chip away, but it's solid. And the goal here is just to sort of work it a little bit below the surface. Now, because we're going for a natural look, the depth of the grout might vary a little bit. Some might be a little higher, some might be a little lower, but the goal is just to sort of get a random look. Follow up with a brush, and you can see that we're going to expose that aggregate. This is the fun part. I'll tell you what, Beth, if you can keep tooling, I've got one more thing to do so we can really make this place look like a French country farmhouse.
All right, this is actually pretty fun.
Sounds good. Well, you know, every dining room needs a chandelier, and this is going to be a great fit. It's got a wrought iron finish, and this style will really tie the whole design together. Hey, Beth, can you do me a favor?
Sure.
Just going to hold this up into place, and I would like you to tell me what you think of the height.
Oh, it might be a little bit low.
Well, you know, I would just as soon shorten up the lengths rather than add them, so let's just keep it at this height. Once the table's in place, we can adjust it if we have to. Okay. Can you hold it while I wear it?
Yep.
All right, thanks.
This chandelier is wired just like any other incandescent fixture. But remember, if you don't feel comfortable around electricity, call a professional.
Remember, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey.
All right.
Got the breaker on, you ready for it?
Yes.
Ah.
Very nice.
Very nice. You know, since we've got this French farmhouse thing going, it really is all about the mood and the ambiance. You know, this light is great, but wouldn't it be nice to really be able to manipulate that mood?
Yes, it would.
Dimmer switch.
Good idea.
To install the dimmer switch, we first clip the wires to the old switch. Of course, we've already turned off the power circuit again. Then we strip the end of the wires.
When selecting a dimmer switch, check the maximum wattage. Make sure your fixture doesn't exceed that wattage, otherwise the dimmer may burn out.
We need to connect the 3 wires with wire nuts because this is a 3-way circuit.
Now that's the way to set the mood.
Yes, it is.
You know, this has been one heck of a weekend transformation.
It was a great project. The best thing about it, they're never going to have to paint these walls again.
You're right. You know, we could seal these, but really no reason to. Now, if we had this material in a kitchen, say on a backsplash, we might want to seal it, but out here, nothing to do. These walls should stay beautiful forever.
2 days ago, this was an average suburban dining room with white sheetrock walls. But look at it now. It just took one weekend to transform it into a French country dining room that looks like it's right out of Provence. This reconstituted stone has the look of authentic stones plowed from a field in France. It looks so realistic you'd almost think it was hundreds of years old. And the whole project was really a breeze. The door surround was almost as easy as paint by number, all topped off with a stately keystone. The chair rail creates division and adds interest. And the base is a great authentic detail. The final touch is the wrought iron chandelier that looks right at home in this new old space. The cost of this room was right around $1,800, but our weekend of work saved us about $3,000 in labor. Now that's a pretty hefty savings and one amazing transformation.
Well, Beth, what do you want to do next weekend?
I don't know. Want to fly to France to make sure this looks right?
That's a good idea. I'll book the flight.
All right.
Now, you don't have to travel to France to get that look. You can do it yourself in just a couple of days. Thanks for watching Weekend Handyman. We'll see you next time.